confirmation. Very good afternoon. Golf Juliet Sierra Charlie Alpha.
Golf Juliet Sierra Charlie Alpha, Coventry information, your readability 5. Taxi holding point Juliet for runway 23 left hand circuit, QNH 1020.
Taxi holding point Juliet, runway 23 left hand circuit, QNH 1020, Golf Charlie Alpha.
Plans first proposed in February 2021 to build an electric battery producing gigafactory on the site currently occupied by Coventry Airport will take a large step towards finalisation in just over 2 weeks' time. Behind the plans are the joint venture partnership comprising of Coventry City Council and the Rigby Group, the current operators of the airfield. However, despite extensive talk of the job opportunities and benefits this speculative planning proposal would supposedly bring, many feel the airfield's importance has been underrepresented. In light of the substantial support for the airfield, we asked some of the tenants and users to clarify their perspective on what many feel is a fundamentally flawed proposal.
The main development concern, as far as I'm concerned, is the fact that it's in breach of planning law in England. The NPPF, the National Policy for Planning Framework, states that development in the Greenbelt is inappropriate. Coventry Airport, a lot of people don't realise, is still within the Greenbelt. Now, in order to build in the Greenbelt, you need exceptional circumstances, and the applicants are trying to claim exceptional circumstances by virtue of how many jobs they say this development will create. What we say is that those job figures are A, spurious, and B, you know that they've got no outside investment. No one from the automotive industry has actually given their support to this. Nobody's put any public share of support behind it, so we question those figures.
In June 2021, an article in the Financial Times described the airport as disused. An incorrect perspective it may benefit some to perpetuate. Despite local councillors turning up to film an intentionally empty airfield, this is simply not the case.
The club is very active. Our membership stands at just under 200 members, all of whom want the airport to remain open and fully operational as an airport.
With the threat of losing the whole airfield, we're currently just about to employ another further 2 employees to cope with the demand that we have, which is running completely counter to the story that's being put out by the developers that the airfield here is not viable.
It's mainly the maintenance organisation and the highly skilled workers that are based here. Without them, we wouldn't be able to operate this very historic aircraft. They're absolutely essential for not just this aircraft, but many other first generation jets that are operated both here in the UK and around the rest of the world.
An anonymous source close to the airport revealed about 82% of the airport's traffic has been training flights, which underlines its importance in the training role. It has the only AFIS unit that has both commercial and private training, evidencing ability and capability. October recorded 2,414 training flight movements, which was second only to Oxford for that month. All year long, Coventry has been the second or third busiest airport for training flights in the UK. Not bad when you consider the bizarre decision to shut the airport on Sundays and Mondays, an operational anomaly most of the flight training providers need not endure.
It's a pity that when people consider this airport as disused. It's far from disused. It's very busy. We would like to use it a lot more. Unfortunately, the current management prevents that. We're not allowed to use it on a Sunday or a Monday. Crazy. If it was the M1 or the main train line from Manchester to London and it was closed on a Sunday or a Monday, it just wouldn't happen, would it?
Even COVID-19, disastrous to many businesses, offered opportunity to the airfield. We were approached and had agreed parking for approximately 20 EasyJet A320s during the pandemic. Those aircraft would have completely turned the financial situation around, but the owners put a stop to that. It's easy to understand those who claim the airfield is being deliberately run into the ground.
Since the developers took over the running of the airfield, the facilities here have been removed or run down. When we first moved here, there was a superb air traffic control service that had radar and a controller that would guide the aircraft in bad weather. It could pick up the instrument landing system, which would then guide it down to land in all weathers. Well, that's been removed, And so the airfield now is only operational on a good weather flying day.
It's all conspiring to run the place down, not develop it.
Gloucester and Oxford have been expanding and developing in exactly the same period that our airfield is being run down by the developers that are tasked with running the airfield. And really, letting these developers run an airfield is putting a wolf in charge of the sheep pen, really.
Many individuals and organisations, both in the aviation sector and elsewhere, have formally opposed the plans, including the Civil Aviation Authority and the all-party parliamentary group on general aviation.
The applicants have submitted some reports to Warwick District Council which highlight other sites that they have discounted. But what we say is that those sites are actually available for use. Some sites down, for example, at Hinckley have been discounted because they're too expensive. Other airfields have been discounted for development on the basis they're active. You know, exactly the same principle as Coventry is. The whole logic behind it is flawed. So for the community, they don't need to have an either-or solution. What we could do is we can retain the airfield, keep the jobs here, the highly skilled jobs that are here, keep aviation at Coventry, and put those jobs still within the local area, but at a brownfield site or another site that needs ready to be redeveloped that isn't going to cost jobs.
We welcome increased job opportunities for the area, of course we do. However, the Gigafactory can be built on other brownfield sites available locally. That will avoid the destruction of the greenbelt land. Destroying a nationally important piece of infrastructure that cannot be relocated anywhere else would be a tragic waste.
There's potential research could have been done in terms of alternative sites for this Gigafactory for a start. If you look at the JLL consultation, they did the research into it. There are sites such as Honley which are identified under the WDC plan as ripe for investment. They haven't been looked at.
If the Gigafactory was built at a more appropriate location on a brownfield site, then we could then expand as Oxford and Gloucester's expanded.
There are many areas around here that could have a battery plant rather than destroy this asset. Once this asset's gone, once this runway's gone, it's gone forever. We won't be building another runway.
And as a pilot, every pilot likes to look back and give back to the next generation, and the next generation won't have facilities like this. And by Warwick District Council approving plans like this, they are setting a terrible precedent. It then gives rise for future development, A, in the Greenbelt, and B, for other councils to redevelop airfields quite readily. Without airfields, being an island, we'll soon run out of pilots, we soon won't have an industry.
Redevelopment would negatively impact a whole host of airfield users, whose contributions to the community, economy and aviation sector in general have often seemed overlooked.
We would lose the aviation side. Well, probably about 70% of aviation business will go because we rely on walk-ins, and the fact we're attached to AMAT Flying Academy means we get a continuity of business. Our members of staff are local, that we're all within 5 to 10 miles commuting. The nearest place would be Wellesbourne, which is a bit unreasonable for commuting. It's a 30 to 40 minute drive from here, and that knocks off a lot of time of the day, business time for the day for our staff. We're supplying to the NHS and care homes as well on the other side for Synos Limited. We're supplying these tools, chillers. So 2 hours a day for each member of staff for 6 hours. That could be another chiller bill which goes into that important arena.
Well, if Coventry gets developed into a factory, the Nimrod would be scuppered really. We are dependent on this airfield. We can't move the aircraft, it can't fly any longer even though the engines run. So we would have to consider moving, and the idea of moving this aircraft by road, taking it apart and reassembling it would really be quite prohibitive, very costly indeed.
Well, we'd have to close. There's no doubt about that one. Looking at the plans itself, the car park will just basically bulldoze the whole of the cafe, and then obviously we'd have to move out, relocate, find somewhere completely different to start up, and obviously it won't be a themed cafe then. It will just be a regular cafe, and it's like, well, there's already plenty of those around, so I just can't see the business continuing.
One such tenant is Coventry Airport Club, the site's oldest operator, having been on the airport for 73 years. They celebrate their 90th anniversary this year.
Closing Coventry Airport will be a disaster, not only for our club but for all the other businesses that are also based on the site as well. Over the years, the Midlands have lost a huge number of airfields. For an example, for a 40-mile radius of Coventry, there have been 36 airfields repurposed for other activities. Within that same area, there's only 4 currently operational airfields that match or exceed the quality of Coventry Airport for facilities. When you consider that all of those airfields in the UK are under threat from developers, it's not difficult to see that alternative options are non-existent. As it currently stands, we've got nowhere else to go. Our future as a club is very much under threat.
Ironically, Sir Peter Rigby himself, Chairman and Chief Executive of the Rigby Group, learned to fly at this very airfield.
Worst case scenario, closure. Okay, we have looked at, I think it's 15 different options now, whether that be other flying schools to partner with, other locations which haven't had suitable facilities. We've even looked at purchasing other flying schools. At the minute, I'm down to about 3 options. None of those are dead cert. So there's potential that there's 5 full-time people going to lose their jobs, 10 part-time people aren't going to have work with us anymore. Customers will be affected, suppliers will be affected.
Morgan Thomas is one such student pilot who lives locally and is learning to fly at the airport.
I'm also doing flying lessons towards my PPL. To the factory being built on top of the runway, but the whole reason I am flying with the Coventry Airplane Club, they won't have a runway to operate their aircraft off, so in turn I won't be able to do my flying lessons.
From little to large, many ventures are keen to dispel the myth that Coventry is not a viable airport.
I think the airport as an airport has a very bright future ahead of it in the right hands. It's the best airport in the region. It can attract new businesses to base themselves on site easily.
If another site was found for the Gigafactory, then the problem would go away in terms of the airfield and the Gigafactory could work hand in hand. That's basically our argument.
Others call into question the viability of the site itself for a Gigafactory. British Volt apparently already rejected the site, citing insufficient power, a sentiment shared by Tesla.
They've had Tesla up here who walked in and walked straight out. Tesla said, yes, it's no good because of the substation is 8 miles away. It costs hundreds of millions to actually get that power into this site. Don't just leave it as an airfield, but develop the airfield.
Andy Bell, CEO of Regional City Airports, who own and manage the Coventry Airport, said they have been working hard to deliver the best possible outcome for the region. We can only hope that this best possible outcome takes into consideration the unique opportunities this airfield and its associated assets can provide.
Coventry would be ideal for developing electric planes. That would be the way forward. So why not work together with the airport or with the Gigafactory idea, a smaller concept, and work on that side, on the aviation side. I don't know how important Coventry is to CAA. It's central, it's critical to the aviation network.
Reinstating the instrument approaches would attract visitors from the commercial training industry and also business jet operations, which the airport lends itself to very well.
We hope that the airfield will stay open because we depend on that, and it's got a reasonable ground for us to stand on. The possibility in the future perhaps of taxiing, there's the tarmac here and also the runway. We would like to get the aircraft into a taxiing position because all the engines run. So really Coventry is essential for us.
Finally, really, I'd just like to appeal to the planning committees on the Coventry and Warwick side just to consider everyone's objections thoroughly. Please do read everyone's objections thoroughly. There are some really key points in there raised by the Civil Aviation Authority and the all-party parliamentary group on aviation. You know, this is a strategic site here at Coventry. Like we said before, it is one of less than 10 airfields with capabilities such as this, so it would be such a shame to remove it from the GA function.
We would urge everybody to submit a formal objection to the planning application.